May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in this gathering and unite with this in Jannah for those, inshaAllah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So, as we all know, the elections for the board are coming up very soon, inshaAllah, in about 6 weeks' time, less 5 weeks' time. We're counting down the weeks as the current board. But as we were getting started, elections, not only in this, I don't want to say it's isolated to this community or even the Muslims, but throughout the US and even in other faiths, elections for boards can become a contentious time. There can be groups that are formed. There could be campaigns that are done. There could be divisiveness that is created in the community. But as we know, our standards as Muslim, as our ummah, our standards are much higher than that. And this is going to give, inshallah, just this talk here is to give a few guidelines on what it is that we should be look for when looking to elect a board member, inshallah, or the qualities of it. So it's addressing 3 parts, right? One is the people who are voting. That what are the qualities that I should look for when I'm looking to elect somebody to lead the community. Second is for those of us who are community members, when we look at other people who are around us, it is incumbent upon us, if we see somebody having good qualities to lead, we should push them. So what are the qualities that for us as members should looking for other board members to lead for, inshallah? And last but not least is for the board member themselves. What is it that I should expect when I'm going to be on the board? And what are the qualities that I should have when leading? So many of the community members have, and some of the leaders of the community had asked for this talk as to provide guidelines for ourselves, inshallah, as a community, as we move forward, inshallah. By the way, I don't know if you saw the before and after pictures of Obama before he was president and after he was president. So I was taking a pretense to change my look so I don't scare everybody from joining the board as to what happens after you join the board. Yeah, a few more gray hairs, but no wrinkles, inshallah. So one point before I start is that when we're looking at community members and board members, so there is one principle that is very important for us to understand. In order to be a board member, you need to be a great volunteer. You need to be an extremely good volunteer. But not all great volunteers are great board members. Inshallah, as I go along and discuss the points that you'll see, and you'll see how that is clarified, inshallah. So first and foremost, you don't have to say this, but I will to start off. If I was to ask you what is the first quality of a board member that you would need, is somebody. Patience. Patience. That's one of them. But before all of that, time is part of it. Sincerity. Ikhlas. First and foremost, of any quality that we need to have is sincerity. If you do not have sincerity, this can become an old gig very fast. And the text, and every single point, as I was preparing for the talk, every single point there is hadith and ayat behind everything. SubhanAllah. Inshallah, we won't go into that, and I'm trying to make it as practical as possible, rather than being an academic discussion, inshallah. Second, I would consider as the most important is integrity. And integrity/honesty. We are dealing currently with Epic and Masjid. We're dealing with millions and millions of dollars. You need to have a very high level of integrity with dealing with them. You're dealing with thousands of people who are community members. If you feel, and as I go along with each point, again, analyze it from your position, from your angle. If you are somebody who is looking at other community members to be elected, look at that. If you yourself are somebody who is a possibility to join the board, look at yourself and self-reflect whether these qualities are present or not. Third is passion. I won't number that, keep me in mind, but you need to have passion to lead the community. to join the board. There are many, many challenges. You need to have a vision as to what you want to achieve. For example, one of our things is that we want to be the model community for all of the communities in the country. If that becomes a vision of yours, if that becomes a passion of yours, that listen, I want to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make this masjid, to have this passion, to make this the best place for the musallin who come, for our kids, for our children, for our sisters, for our seniors. Next is flexibility. And this comes in many different ways. First of all, flexible amongst your board members that you are going to be with. If you are rigid on your stance, if you are stubborn on what you want to do all the time, it'll be a very, very long board meeting. Very board meetings. You have to understand each individual's perspective is different, and the experiences that they have come with are different. So there are times that you may have to give up your own personal opinion, your personal stance for the greater good, and to go with the majority. And at times that will be painful as well. But if you are somebody who will feel that my way or the highway, that you're looking for failure in your term. Along with that, flexibility with community members. You have to understand, we're not dealing with just your family. Many of us are leaders of our families of 5 people, 7 people, or leaders of our businesses, maybe even, that may be 10, 20, 30 people, 50 people, or maybe a manager or a boss. But when you're in a community of thousands of people, you need to understand that everybody comes with their own thoughts and experiences that they have gone through in life, which gives them a certain stance, which may not be in congruence with yours. But if you don't have any flexibility and understanding how everybody else behaves and thinks, again, that will lead you to having a very tough time. Next is flexibility as well, but there is also something that may seem oxymoron, but toughness. How this differs is that you need to have a bit of a thick skin. Because to say that you will join the board and not be insulted, it's not going to happen. You're going to be insulted by someone or another at some time. You may be name called. You may be backbited. You will be backbited against, unfortunately. You will be slandered. To walk into it, to think that that's not going to happen, is also walking into a reality that's not existent. That is the unfortunate reality of our community and our ummah. But if you do not have, if you are going to be offended by an insult, if somebody says something to you, and it's going to drag you down for a month, and you just want to quit after that, it requires a little bit of a thick skin. Even though you're on the haqq, you maybe think that you're on the right position, you are doing it by Islam, you're doing it for the benefit of the community, but somebody may disagree. And they had the right to do so. But we pray that we all disagree in an ethical manner, in a civilized manner, the one that was in the manner of our Prophet ﷺ. Next is humility. Without being said, this is a prophetic point as well, but if you have an ounce of arrogance while leading a community, that'll come back to you very fast. That it's a prophetic, it's from our Quran. Having any point of riyā is not at all, but especially in position of leadership. Because when you're in position of leadership, all your actions are magnified. And all your qualities become magnified. Not just in front of the people, but in front of Allah as well. So if there's this little bit of arrogance in you, first try to deal with it before you come to the board. But inshallah, try to realize that is something that's going to be a big fault of yours. Time. That was one of the fun points that was mentioned. You're going to need time. To say, at the least minimum. This is at the level of you want to join the board and keep the status quo. And understand that you have a board meeting. We have 11 committees, which you will be responsible for at least two of them. You have fundraising events, you have Ramadan, you have Eids, you have different functions all throughout the year at different times. So at minimum, you're looking at 10 hours a week. On the average, 20, on the maximum, 30 hours a week. And this is a reality. This is that you need to also understand that this is the time commitment it takes to be on the board. Although I do feel the model is a little flawed. Inshallah, if the masjid can grow to a level where we can hire an executive director, be at that point where a lot of those administrative tasks are given off to somebody else, that would be a much easier task on the 7 people who are there as a board member. Attentiveness. This is extremely key because there's sometimes things come out of urgent matter, and you need to be aware. And you need to be aware of what's going on in your community, in your masjid. If you become lazy, or if you become that, you know what? Okay, I'll take care of this a day or two. You know, some things some things can wait a week. Some things can wait 3 days. But at times there are things that require you that same day, that same hour, for you to be aware of it, whether it be an HR issue, whether it be a financial issue, or a legal matter, or a security issue. Things come up all the time that we need to be aware of, inshallah. Foresight. Now, it becomes, in my opinion, to be successful as a board member, you can't just think of what's happening to you today, tomorrow, or even next month. To be a successful board member, in my opinion, you need to think not just to the end of your term, but you need to think 5, 10, 15 years ahead. As to what, because many of the times the actions that you take are precedents for the future. And you need to be very, very careful on what actions you take, because they could have a lasting impact on the community down the road, whether it be in construction, whether it be in finance, whether it be in HR. So we need to be very, very, very clear on that, inshallah. Compassionate. This is key. People are going to upset you. You're going to be upset. You have to, you know, there will be times where you feel broken, right? You feel challenged by what's going on in the community. There's different obstacles that are occurring in your way. But you know, there's the saying of the hadith of ummati ummati, that my ummah. This is your community. These are the people who you were elected to serve. And no matter what state they are in, whether they're praising you or they are trying to harm you, or you feel that they're trying to harm you, but you have to understand that they are your ummah, that they are your brothers and sisters in deen. Inclusive. This is extremely important from multiple angles. First is ideologically. So we are we're not a madhab as a masjid. We're not a jama'ah. You're not a specific way of thinking. Okay, people come to the masjid with various backgrounds, have different schools of thought, different madhahib, different ideas. To narrow it down to one area, or okay, I'm only going to give it to this one section of thinking, is not the proper way. It's not the way to lead the community. Because you have people of, let's just say, just to name it, people who are associated with ICNA, right? As an example. And ICNA should have a platform. People are so associated with Tablighi Jama'ah. They're doing work for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they should have a platform. People may have a leaning towards one line that is quote unquote a Salafi line, right? Or a Sufi line, you cannot close the doors. You have to be understanding what are the boundaries. That from Islam, Allah, we have some boundaries that take you far, But within that boundaries, within those two lines, stay within those, and you need to be open, whether that differs with your personal opinion or not. There could be a speaker who you don't agree with, but you need to give and allow that platform as long as they are within those lines. The next part is inclusive from a demographic perspective. We cannot have a masjid only for men. We cannot have only for sisters. We need to make sure that our sisters are welcome, that our children are welcome, the youth are welcome, the seniors are welcome. It needs to be inclusive from all angles, and you must have that mindset from the beginning. So while you're conducting your programming, your decision making, that has to be there. Organized. Inshallah, I'll try to move a little faster. Being organized. I mean, this is paramount, and you can understand from having finance, from having legal, from having programming, from having HR, all those things. If you're not organized, an organized person, there are ways and tools that you can have to become organized, but that's very, very important. You need to be personable. Okay, having a smile on your face, although this is something I need to work on, smiling more, being approachable, where people can come and approach you and feel free to talk to you. Because this is their masjid. This is the masjid of the community. It's not just of one person or or a group of people or of your friends only, or people that you get along with. When I meant also on the demographic also, we have a problem in our community that we need to also include. This is not I wanted to also mention one point, this is not only an Arab masjid or Pakistani masjid or Indian masjid or for immigrants, it's for all people, and we need to also be understanding of that at all times, inshallah. Empowering. As 7 people, you cannot run the masjid, plain and simple. There's too many people, there's too many activities, there's too much of a demand upon the needs of the community are so great that 7 people cannot just manage this. You need to be able to empower the volunteers in order to work. You need to be, at the same time, be resourceful. You need to be patient, as Brother Rashid was saying. Patience is key. You learn on the job, patience, but if you're somebody who has a short fuse or impatient on small things, something that you need to think of, or you know of somebody that has those qualities, think about it once more. From a qualities perspective, you need to be comfortable making tough decisions. Not always will the decisions that you make be popular, okay? But you need to be able to say that even if it's contrary to the majority of what people had liked, but if you're doing it based upon keeping the institution safe, for example, from a legal perspective, or from a financial perspective, you need to be able to make that tough decision. So this is what I'm talking, this is from qualities. These qualities that I discussed, I would say majority of them are must-haves. Some of them you can get away with, but majority of them, those are must-have qualities for anybody who is running for the board. Now, 2 more sections. So I want to break it down from qualities that a person must have. Second is skills that we should have. And third is why do it. So talking about the skills portion, so not every member of the board has to have the same skills. Okay, not everybody can be a president, and not everybody has to be a guru in finance, not everybody has to be a lawyer, not everybody has to be, but everybody has to be, there has to be, some of them are needed for everybody, but you need to understand that, first of all, the model that exists, it's 7 people who don't know each other are coming together. Some at times don't know each other. I mean, honestly, the first month, I couldn't get Brother Shazad and Brother Zulfikar's names right. I was mixing them up between the two because it was new, right? And it took a while for me to understand, and for all of us to understand and trust each other to have that. By the way, trust is a huge factor that you need to have amongst the board, but that's for a different day, inshallah. So some of the skills that must be present in the board, okay? But everybody must have time management skills, because if you don't have time management skills, or that can be something that can be developed, but that's extremely important. Financial awareness. Everybody must be aware of financially, but you need to have somebody on your team who's able to. Everybody should be able to read an income statement or a balance sheet. I mean, that should be at minimum, in my opinion. But there should be at least somebody in your team who is an expert, or can become an expert, or can know who to go to learn how to balance a budget properly. Legal awareness, extremely. You don't have to be a lawyer, but you need to know how to speak to a lawyer. You need to know what are the things that you need to watch out for, and be able to be trained in those things. Conflict resolution. I would say this is a skill. Unfortunately, I think many of us lack it in our board, but this is a skill I think that needs to be had. It's something that can be learned, actually. And I would probably advise the next board to take a class or a course in conflict resolution, or a seminar in that. Because it's natural. You're in a community of thousands of people, conflicts will arise no matter what you do. Between community members, between employees, it's going to happen, and you need to be able to deal with those. Leadership, this is something that goes, this is a very long talk it by itself, but somebody needs to be a leader. There needs to be somebody who has those qualities of a leader. Last but not least, on the HR side is, on the skill side, is HR skills. Probably because I have many of the direct reports, one of the hardest parts of the role is human resources. First of all, this is a volunteer position, and you have full-time employees, and you are their manager. So you're not here on premises all day. As typical, our jobs are, even if we work remotely, you have somebody who you report to. There's somebody that is responsible for you. But to be able to manage human resources in a proper way is key. I mean, whether it's onboarding an employee, whether an admin, whether it be our religious leadership, and it can become challenging because you view them as your leaders. At one time, you view them as somebody you go to for guidance. At the same, somebody who you also are friendly with. But at the same time, you report to them. They report to you. So all of that combined is a very challenging thing, and you need to be cognizant of that challenge will be there, and you have to be aware of that. So the last is why. Why do this? You're getting all these qualities that you must have, all these skills you must have, all these challenges that you face. Why do it? What's the purpose? For the sake of Allah. If the why is any other answer but that, exactly, null and void. Think about it again. So the why, and I'm going to give you some examples of what motivates, what keeps the board to keep going. You build a community center, and you have a hope that center will be a place where many people can come, youth can come and become closer to Allah, where the community can become closer, where people can become closer to Islam due to that structure. You start a hifz class for sisters because you think maybe that, subhanAllah, that the ajr of those sisters memorizing the Quran, maybe you have a part in that. Maybe that's part of your hisab. You are organizing, you are facilitating all these educational programs that are going on. With kids on a daily basis, 200 kids are learning Quran and Hadith, are learning Arabic. You're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars of sadaqah, where somebody is going to be about to be evicted from their apartment, but subhanAllah, you're able to, because of your position, you're able to give that person a check. Or someone is going through a hard time, and there's a region that's going through that is suffering, and you're able to facilitate that organization to come and raise funds, and those funds that are raised in your masjid are able to help thousands of people. You conduct an outreach program where, subhanAllah, somebody accepts Islam due to the programs that you have conducted. You hire a youth director or a youth coordinator, you bring them on board with the hope that somebody comes, and the hope is that on the day of judgment, that scale, that you're there, that you have a part, that is part of your hisab. And that any wrong that you did, any wrong, that's outweighed. And that Allah overlooks all those mistakes, because you will make mistakes. But that is the why. And I will close with this. When I was at Hajj, one of the mashayikh, we were talking, and we were talking about positions of leadership and whatnot. He was saying, if there is somebody qualified, meaning he or she, actually I sent him these qualities. I just said, hey, listen, what do you think? Did I miss anything? He's like, this is beautiful. So if there is a person that has those qualities, and Allah has given him the tawfiq to have those abilities, those skills, that skill set, for him or her not to take that position of leadership is haram. For him or her not to take that leadership is haram. So the why is two: for the sake of Allah, again, and to save yourself from being held accountable, that you were given an opportunity to lead and you did not do so. So this is just a few points of a reminder, inshallah. May Allah accept, inshallah. And I'm sure there's some things that I missed, and I ask Allah to forgive me of those. And if there's any questions, I will gladly take them, inshallah.
I have a question, two parts. First part is, do you think, we have never had a sister in the board. Do you think if a sister is elected, do you think she would be able to conduct the duties of a BOD member? And we've seen everything. The schedules and the pressure, the challenge. Do you think a sister can honestly fulfill her duties, number one? Number two?
Can you repeat your question?
So my question is regarding these sisters being in the BOD, since we have never had anyone before. So my question is basically based on your experience. If a sister is elected to the board, do you think she would be able to fulfill her duties honestly, knowing the pressures that you see, the time that you have to put in? Do you think she can really fulfill the duties? Number two, if she is elected, what should she be expecting that a normal brother or a male would not see or not be expecting in your job?
Can you clarify the second question again?
The second is basically the time, the pressure, okay, and sometimes the conflicts, the nature of the conflict that you hear, okay, the language that is being used, right? She might not be used to those kind of things. So based on those, I mean, do you really think that a sister can fulfill the duties properly?
Okay. This is a personal opinion. This is not an epic opinion, but do I feel that sisters are capable of leading being on the board? Absolutely. I will say that unequivocally. Seeing how some of the sisters, being involved in the sisters committee, seeing their organization, seeing their abilities, yes, challenges will be there. Will they be able to? Some brothers can't handle it. I'll tell you right now. Some brothers I know they can handle it, but to differentiate the sisters or brothers from being able to handle difficult situations, I wouldn't differentiate them, because there are brothers who are able to handle it, and there are sisters who are able to handle it. There are brothers who can't handle it, and there are sisters who can't handle it. But I also think it is a welcome. I would welcome it personally, because first of all, it would change the dynamic. It'll probably make everybody behave a little bit better too on the board. And also, they are half our community, right? So they need to be understood from an administrative standpoint. They need to be, they need to have a voice, right? And no matter how understanding we may think we are as men of their needs, we will overlook it. Okay, we will, and having that voice there, like I remember we had a sister on the construction committee, right? Even though we maybe think there was a sister who was an architect and she was mashallah, but she gave a perspective from the sister's side that that allowed us to plan in a better way. So I think it's needed, and I think it is welcome, inshallah.
I just want to add to his questions that, I think sister, if it's not too late, they don't have a point of contact. They have volunteers, and they go to her, different people, or they go to imam, or they go to ustad, and they usually text, where they have a, face-to-face point to contact. So it's something, because our masjid is unique, and nobody has as much as we are providing. We are moving forward and giving them even their own gym and other things, and more issues will come, and more need to be resolved, or need to be, they have to have someone that they can rely to, or directly face-to-face talk to, So it's something I just wanted to add to it.
May I ask, Jazakallah khair, Brother Junaid? Yeah, let me just ask this, inshallah. So there was Brother Mohsin. This brother here. Okay, I'll come to you, inshallah, in just a moment. So a couple of things I wanted to share is that, alhamdulillah, I have an opportunity these days that I'm visiting a new community every week, and people come to me and share their concerns, complaints, because I'm an outsider, I'm supposedly an unbiased person. So one of the things that comes out that there are board members that occupy the seat on the board, but they don't do their job. And when they talk to some of them, they say, well, we are just a volunteer, My advice is for any of us here who are planning to run for the board, or going to accept nomination for the board, is that, yes, you're a volunteer, and you're not being paid in dollars and cents here, but of course your reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But once you make a commitment, you can't drop the ball. It has to be a firm commitment to serve. And also, before you accept the nomination, make istikhara. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you if this is something good for you. And ask your spouse, because working in the board as a board of director will take a toll on your family life. That is for sure. And I know many cases. So ask your spouse, wife or husband as the case may be, whether they are agreeable to you serving on the board. Because without their support, you will not be able to do the job. You have to have peace at home, you have to have support at home. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is that in your experience, do you think 2 years is sufficient for a person to come to the board, understand, make changes, lead the community, and then say that alhamdulillah I'm done? Or do you think that there should be a little bit?
It's an unrelated question, but if you, as a board member, you're like, yeah, 2 years is way too long. But no, honestly, but no, I think 2 years. It's a tricky question. You know what? Because look, I will be very frank that the many goals that we had as a board that we may not be able to achieve in the next 6 weeks, right? That we had done over the past 2 years. If we had an extra year, possibly that we would be able to achieve that. But also being on the Constitution Committee about plan changes, that was not changed. The term of the board was not changed. So it could be, honestly, you could get a lot done in 2 years. Ideally, maybe it's different. If you're able to balance it out where it's reasonable hours and reasonable, where it's not such a toll on the board, and as Brother Ikram had mentioned, on the families as well. I mean, we cannot all be like Brother Mohsen spending 4 years, subhanAllah. May Allah reward him for that, and Brother Sayyid Ali as well. But that I mean, I give my hats off to them for doing that. But it takes a special commitment to do that.
Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khair, actually. Yeah, so I mean, just to add up on the constitutions, I know that we were pushing for the staggering elections, which will actually, instead of removing the entire board and bringing a new board, that they have to face challenges, and there's a lot of information that they might not have. That's why the staggering elections were introduced when I was in the previous board, but somehow we were at the end of our term, we were not able to conclude that one. So that, I think, is really a good thing that the next board need to pursue, actually, to make sure that this is working. In my actual HOA, I've been working for quite some time, 15 years, and it's a good thing. Just, I have a question for you about, you said the shuyukh, they said it's haram if you don't have the skills not to run. Is there any dalil for that? Because I don't want to get this information without a dalil. You know that we have to have a dalil or a qiyas, you know?
Yeah.
But if you can follow up on that, actually, that would be nice.
No, I did actually. I had just today. I asked him before while I was preparing. He was going over that. Actually, I have a voice note for a minute. It's probably easier if I play the voice note. Then actually, you know what? I'll do that. That's easy. Can you let me just finish with him, inshallah. Jawab they don't. Okay. So let me just do this real quick. I don't want to mess up my dalil. I'll listen to it. It's not going on the speaker, inshallah. I'll give it inshallah. Yes. So actually, there was three adillah for it, but I don't want to mess. One of them was the let me. I'd rather not mix it up, inshallah.
I'm a little curious. What exactly election denote? I think my voice can be heard anywhere. What does election mean? What does it denote? Election. Why there are elections, and what does it denote? What does it mean?
The definition of election.
Well, okay. Election means democracy, right? When there's a democracy, you have elections.
Okay.
Right? Am I right or wrong?
Not always, but okay, please, just I want to understand what you're trying to understand.
Yes, okay. When there's a democracy, you have elections, you elect the people, you see, to guide and make movements of the people and make decisions and, you know, okay. And democracy demands transparency. See? And transparency creates trust. You see? If there is no transparency, there is no trust. You see? And this is what has been happening over in this masjid for 4 years. I've been here for more than 8 years. For 4 years, I've been noticing everything is. Why? Why there's a dictatorship over here? They get elected like politicians, you know, of a country, and then they become dictator. You try to tell them something, this is what happened. It has happened to me.
So Akram Bhai has asked me to answer the question, but I'll
Sorry, I mean, to reiterate the purpose of this meeting is for him to share some of his experiences and inform the community if anybody is trying to run for the next board, what it takes, what is expected of them. So inshallah, your complaints are well placed, but for another time.
Inshallah.
But 25 years I have given my time, my spare time out of my office, 25 years. I was Vice Chairman of Red Cross, I was with National Trust, I was Chairman of Geriatric Committee of Lions Club International, you know, so many of them. Even when Queen Elizabeth came over in February, you know, to open the park. So people are paying money to get the photograph taken. I'm not. 25 years I've given. I know what is it, you know, to be volunteer. I know what is it to be on the board. And
inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair, Junaid. I mean, like, you touched a lot of points, so great points. I mean, like, one thing I just thought that, like, just to add what you said, I mean, excellent points. As a board member, I mean, there are things which is being discussed inside the board meetings only, right? Having the quality of confidentiality of that information, right? What happens inside the board meeting, it stays inside the board meeting. The trust and everything is so critical for the board members to be part of that. I just thought that, like, just to share, because anything happens, I mean, we discuss so many things, right? I mean, as a board member, which you cannot even discuss outside that room. So I just thought that, like, just to add that, like,
By the way, Brother Khalid is the IQA chairman. So alhamdulillah, he has much we can learn from him as well. Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely, but it didn't happen.
Anybody's welcome.
No. Take appointment.
No.
What talk about? This is what.
No, there's never been there.
I'm not talking about you personally. We are not arguing.
Anyways, yes, inshallah, we can do that.
I think you should continue.
Yeah, inshallah, we will. And now, Jazakumullah khairan, inshallah, for everybody. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put tawfiq in our elections and allow us to pick the right leaders, inshallah.